because everyone's just like, oh, meditation is great, it keeps your head clear, but what are the actual practical uses of it? Alright, welcome back to part 2 of going through my morning routine, which is a list, not a schedule. You know the drill, you know how this is gonna go. I got a list, I'm gonna go through every item, and I'm gonna tell you why I started doing the item, how I'm doing it now, and how I started doing this so that you can also start doing it too if you want to implement it. So I skipped the first 2 items originally, and now I'm going to talk about them. Meditation is something that initially I was really hesitant on trying, right? It seemed like everybody was doing it, but I didn't really get what about it was so great. It wasn't until one of my friends showed me a video, and I'll kind of play a segment or a clip of it here.
If I talk all the time, I don't hear what anyone else has to say. And so in exactly the same way, if I think all the time, that is to say, if I talk to myself all the time, I don't have anything to think about except thoughts. And therefore I'm living entirely in the world of symbols, and I'm never in relationship with reality.
And what really sold me in this video, or this like audio clip, podcast, whatever you want to call it, is this idea that our minds are always constantly working and we're never giving them a break. Like a lot of times when people take breaks, you like chill, you go on YouTube, you go on like TikTok, you watch movies or whatever, but that's not really giving your mind a break because you're still thinking about things, you're still watching things. And so the idea of meditation, the idea of kind of like basically sitting there and doing nothing made sense in a weird way. So that's what convinced me to start trying it. And once I started trying it, and once I kind of got into it and made it a habit, I really saw the benefits of it. So how I do it currently now is I just sit and I just let my thoughts run. And there's a lot of different people out there, and there's a lot of different like meditation techniques and stuff as well, but this is kind of how I do it. I kind of like to keep things simple. I just find a nice comfy spot in my home and I just sit down and I just let my thoughts run. And initially what I did was I started small. So I started doing like 5-10 minute meditations. I bumped it up to 20 because there was a part of my commute to work where I was on the bus and I just meditated on the bus. Because if you really think about it, meditation is just really just sitting there doing nothing, like just letting your thoughts run. And you can do that on a bus. You just sit there and you let your thoughts run. Like you don't sit, don't look at your phone, just shut your eyes and let your thoughts run. And so after that though, I started doing like untimed meditations where I just sit there and I just hit a stopwatch and I just let it run. And when I get to the point where my mind, there's not a lot of thoughts running around in my mind, there's not as many thoughts, then that's kind of when I stop. But initially I timed it because it was just a lot easier. How I started doing this, so that's like the time piece. The actual like what goes on in your head when you start doing this. Because for me, when I started first doing meditation, I found it really hard to sit there. I'd get all angsty. So what I did was I would envision a white room, completely white, and in the center of the room is a table, also white table. And on this table is clear, just smooth, it's clear, it's clean, there's nothing on the table. And the visualization that I had was when you sit there alone with your thoughts and things kind of just pop up, it's kind of like things popping up on the table, out of nowhere, a cup appears, a dinner plate appears, a fork appears, a spoon appears, a plate of food appears, right? And the idea is not for you to push the things off the table. It's not for you to throw the things off the table. It's this idea of you just let it appear and you just let the things disappear. Whatever visualization works with you. For me, it was sometimes, just as the plate would appear, it would just disappear into thin air. Sometimes it would slide off the table itself. And so this was a visualization technique that I used to get into meditation. I found it pretty fun. And eventually I just stopped doing it. Eventually I was just okay with just like sitting there, listening to my thoughts kind of go on and on. So that's a bit about meditation. I also want to add in a little like segment or bit here about the practical uses of meditation, because everyone's just like, oh, you know, meditation is great, it keeps your head clear, but what are the actual practical uses of it? So I'm gonna list 2 or 3. The first one is knowing whether or not you're sleep deprived. And this is really important because there are times when I'm like, I'm really tired. And I'm like, can I push myself? And that question really depends on whether or not you're sleep deprived, because I kind of like to think of tiredness as a couple of things. Number 1, you're sleep deprived. Number 2, you're mentally exhausted, which means there's just a lot going on in your head, like you're overwhelmed, there's a lot happening. Or number 3, there's an external factor. So this external factor could be you're sick and you just don't have as much energy as you want to. You have a food coma. It's summer and it's super hot, and when it's hot out, you're just more tired. All of these things, like I've come to like personally experience myself, by the way. And so these things are important because if you're sleep deprived, you can push yourself, but you really should, you know, make sure you're getting enough sleep so that you can continue to push yourself in the future and so that you stop being tired. The second one is important to know because if you're mentally overwhelmed, this is where meditation can really help. You sit there, you let your thoughts run, you reaffirm and you know that it's not the end of the world and you got things under control. It's important to meditate there because then you can continue to push yourself because you won't be as tired. There have been meditation sessions where I've sat there and after meditating for a bit, I'm like, I feel so much more awake. And it's so weird because when you take a nap and you wake up, like sometimes you feel super awake and sometimes you don't. And to get that, like meditating, to feel super awake after you meditate is weird because you're used to feeling that after you wake up from a nap, not from sitting there and doing nothing. So that's point number 2. And point number 3, it's really important to know that because like that's kind of out of your control. You kind of just have to like know that. So I think I'm rambling a bit here, but basically what I'm trying to say is meditating is a really important tool to have in your arsenal to combat that second point. And by the way, it's a really good indicator to know when you're sleep deprived too, because if you sit there and you meditate and you just like let your thoughts run and you feel really, really sleepy and you feel like taking a nap, chances are you're sleep deprived. And so if that's the case, get more sleep. So I kind of use meditation often as a sleep test, and sometimes I'll meditate right before bed because it helps me sleep. So practical uses of meditation. Number 1, it lets you know if you're sleep deprived or not. Number 2, if you're feeling super overwhelmed and there's a lot of things going on in your head, it actually helps you feel less tired. I know, that's super weird. And I guess number 3, it's kind of like a skill. And the better you get at a skill, like the more you practice a skill, the better you get at it. And so because of meditation, I'm a lot more aware of things that pop up, like thoughts that I would have. I'd be able to like pick it out and isolate it. And I guess you're just a lot better at like noticing your thoughts, which sounds like, why would you ever find that useful? But it's a lot more useful than you may think, because there are times when I would think about things and I'd be like, oh, that's a really good idea, I should write that down. And if I wasn't as aware of my thoughts, I wouldn't be able to pick that out. I wouldn't be able to be like, I should write that down. It would just things would kind of just run on off in my head. So those are a couple of benefits from meditation, like actual practical benefits. And hopefully that convinces you to some extent to at least give it a shot, because it's like I do it every day now and it's become really useful. Hey yo, what's up? Thanks for staying until the end of the video. I know that I said I was going to talk about journaling in this video, but this morning routine series, there's going to be at least 2 more videos, at least. It's in the works. I'll eventually get through the entirety of the list, but man, if you stayed to the end of the video, I just want to say thanks. I learned a lot of things about meditation and I was skeptical about trying it at the end, but I've come to find that it is such a great use of time to just learn. So If you like videos like this, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, I'll see you on the next video. Peace